All right, welcome everybody to the stream this evening. We are going to be going live with Storm Chaser Lexi as she recaps with us what she saw in Iowa last Tuesday on April 12th, 2022. So that was that moderate risk chase that she went on, and there was a moderate risk of severe weather. And the one cell that we were focusing on the HRRR forecast model actually did go tornado warned, and it dropped a fairly large wedge tornado. So here in just a second, we're going to go over that with her, and she's going to tell us what she kind of saw and all those different photographs that she allowed us to use in this recap. So much thanks to her for allowing us to do that. All right, here we go. So, hey, Storm Chaser Lexi, how you been doing ever since that chase?
Hey, Landon, how you doing?
Awesome.
You ready to talk about Tuesday?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm pumped for this because it was a really big chase, wasn't it? Especially whenever you got on that tornado. A very unexpected drop there, but it happened.
Oh man, you know, there was a couple of us out there. Like I was live on my Facebook, and we're kind of watching it come in, and it had formed the inflow tail, and I was explaining about the inflow tail and the mezzo getting its act together, and we were just right outside of Manson, Iowa, and we decided to reposition a little bit more west, and that's when it really started to kind of get its act together. And we just kind of sat there and just watched it do its thing, and we watched it cycle, and then right up to the point where it really started to ramp up. It started getting really windy, which you usually get under a mezzo, and it's trying to get all that air up into the storm so it can tilt that area of rotation. And so it really started to get ramped up, and we were there and we were kind of following it. And I don't think any of us really expected it to blow up like it did. Like we're just to the east of it still, and we were watching it, and it started doing. But there was three of us out there, and it had put down this crazy looking diagonal aura ahead of, like, kind of like ahead of the mezzo itself. It was kind of weird. Like as the mezzo was crossing us in front of us, and we could definitely see the rotation in the storm. Like west of that, it was crazy diagonal aura of something. And the only I've actually asked a couple of people about, and the only explanation is it might have been a rogue tornado. And you saw it too, Landon. And
Yes, I certainly did.
we were out there, and I had asked the other two chasers. I was like, "What is that? I have never seen anything." Because usually rogue tornadoes, they're kind of like they have a lot of rotation. They're really weak. You know, they're trying to get started. So, like, they're kind of sickly at first, and it does a lot of crazy. You can definitely tell it's a tornado. But this was kind of like it was stationary almost. It looked like really didn't have look like it had much rotation out of it, which was kind of weird. It was in the distance, and so nobody out there knew what that was. And so we we got behind a storm, and we started chasing it. Um, and we were going east, and I don't think any of us really expected it to drop in front of everybody. Like it just, we're driving along, and it kind of looked like just a big gust of wind at first, or kind of like maybe somebody was burning something. Like at first, it kind of looked like a fire,
I
and then
actually
I kind of noticed that the dirt was spinning.
I actually thought at first whenever I was watching your recap, I thought that it was part of the inflow because of how it kind of was lifting up that dry dirt into that inflow, and I thought that's what that was until seconds later, I realized that that was a tornado. That's why I was really confused at first because, just like you had mentioned, there was that rotation to the left, and I thought that's where it was going to drop, and I thought that was the mesocyclone itself. But apparently, I forgot to check to the east there, and just slightly to the east, that's where your tornado dropped. So, really
See,
fantastic phenomena.
that's where I was watching. I was watching the rotation and I was waiting for it to drop right there in the road. And it just dropped on the side of the road. And it's like, what's going on here?
Exactly, and it was very confusing at first. But I guess that was a little part of the maybe a possible scud, I guess, that was on the outer banks of that rotation. And then of course your tornado dropped to the east, but that was a bit confusing at first. It was almost like a decoy to kind of send you off in the wrong direction so that you wouldn't actually go after the tornado.
The weird, really cool thing about this from watching it from start to finish or finish ish was, you know, there is there is a couple rotation spots just in that mezzo alone, which was really cool to watch. So, I mean, if you're watching the video, you can tell that you have that main area of rotation and it just kind of spit off another area to the front of it, and that's where you got the tornado. And then the main rotation really never kind of did anything. It just kind of let the tornado ahead of it go do its thing. And there was two areas that I was watching before we got to that point, and that's why when I sent you that one video, Landon, that's why I was rotating the camera all over the place because those clouds were just going absolutely crazy out there.
They
Just
really were.
everything was rotating. Everything was rotating. So, like, that was a really cool surprise. It was really unexpected. Like, a lot of people kept driving on, and because I don't even think they expected it. And then we got further on down the road. Like, I watched it, and then I didn't want it to get too ahead of too far ahead of me, so we re-engaged it from the flank, and we caught it back on a dirt road, which was super slippery because Iowa caliche is super slippery on those roads, so you gotta be really careful on them. So we finally stopped to a point where we were able to watch it in the dirt, and it kind of just it kept going, but it was kind of just you can tell in the video. I don't know if you uploaded that video or not, but you could tell it was just kind of losing its strength. And that one actually it was rated an EF2, I believe, and it went 16 miles, didn't it?
It might. I
16
actually
or
didn't know
6,
how far
I'm
it
not
went.
sure. Yeah, I had posted on my Twitter. It might have been 6. It wasn't a short. It wasn't a long distance at all. But by that time, all it took was that one to fire off that first tornado, and then it was enough, just like a domino effect, and it set all of them off. So you had every cell right after that was rotating and it was dropping tornadoes. Like Mason City got a real bad tornado. There was an area by I can't think of the name of the town, but there was an area over there that had a couple of houses damaged, and there was one house that all the outside buildings, like the garage, the barns, the livestock area, everything had been destroyed by a tornado. And when I had pulled up to talk to check on the resident, she came out of the house and she looked really, really, really like confuzzled, really, really just really disoriented, like what had happened here. And I asked her, the first thing I asked her was, are you okay? And she just kind of looked at me and just was kind of in a daze. And she said, I think so. The sheriff just left to check on me.
That is,
So
I can't even imagine how that would feel, especially after just being within that, that crazy monster that came through.
I couldn't imagine that either. Like she had every right to be really dazed. Like what had happened just 3 minutes before, you know? And I know a couple, and then we had, I had moved to, before I had went there, we had actually popped off onto a actual asphalt road and we were behind a storm. We were trying to catch back up to it. And we had gotten to a point where it had went through some houses and we had all stopped and the road was blocked also from debris. And we had stopped to check on everybody. I don't know where the homeowner was because I never saw them. But we were all out there and it started to hail, quarter size hail, which is not a big deal. And then so I had kind of creeped into the back and there because there was a tree back there. So I was kind of trying to shield myself from the hail, a little bit. It wasn't too bad. And then the hail stopped, and I had noticed on radar that to the west of my position where we are all currently at, there was another storm that had become tornado warned. And so I could see on the radar that we were on the backside, on the very tail end of this, right where the tornado was at. And that was going northeast. And then there was a secondary storm to the west of that, and that had went tornado warned. Well, when the hail stopped, I went to go pull out from underneath the tree, and a gigantic hailstorm went and landed right in the center of my windshield, which triggered me to run back underneath the tree. And so it hailed about lemon-sized hail for a good couple of minutes. I lost my back window, which is kind of weird. It was wild to go through. Just very, very loud, very loud. There was a couple of times that the hailstones had hit the roof of the car so hard that it was actually popping the headliner. You can actually was seeing the headliner vibrate. So that lasted a couple minutes and then it stopped and then I kind of regathered my marbles and then I went to go re-advance the storm, and that's when I ran into the other area that had been damaged from the tornado. I had stopped and reported that to the weather service on Twitter.
And
And
I
then
bet
by
that
then,
was I bet that was really just a spectacle too, right in your vehicle. I can't even imagine how loud that was. That hail, and you said there was about softball sized hail there or so,
it was lemon size. It was about lemon size. It was between lemon and softball. It
which
was
is
there was a
large.
couple of stones. There was a couple of stones that was a lot larger than the lemon stones. There is actually a spot on the corner, the driver's side rear corner of my car, where it looks like somebody just dropped a baseball, a softball out of the sky. Actually, it's about the size of a softball. It looks like somebody dropped a softball right out of the sky and it just landed perfectly in that corner and it just made a big old crater. And so by that time, when I got to those other set of areas that had been hit, um, I had looked on the radar and I had already noticed that there was an outbreak going on. And then there was also the QLCS that was forming to the west that was advancing east. And with my back window bad, I just decided to go ahead and disengage the chase because I didn't want to flood an electric vehicle. That would have been bad. So um, we were actually just north of Humboldt, Iowa, and we had stopped for another mezzo that was actually getting it back together, and it had just become tour warned when I was out there shooting the video. And all these videos I'm talking about, I'm going to post on my YouTube later on, probably this evening or tomorrow at some point or eventually.
And we will
And
link
so,
your channel into the description. So anybody who wants to check out Storm Chaser Lexi's channel, we will link that in the description later, so you can come back and see all her footage that she took herself.
yeah, absolutely. When I get everything on there, I'll let you know so you can let everybody know so they can pop on there. But I mean, overall, it was a pre-textbook chase overall. I mean, it was a good dry line setup. At first, it was kind of iffy. We were kind of, a lot of people actually had to twist my arm to go to this because the probability of something like this actually happening from these kinds of steps are kind of like a 50-50. It's a coin toss. Sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. There's a lot more fail mode with this kind of deal than there is actually play modes, and we actually got a play mode out of it. But you know, Landon twisted my arm, and Noah twisted my arm about it, and there's a couple other people that twisted my arm about it from Twitter. And I was like, but in the end it paid off, and I'm glad it did. Like, I'm glad I went.
And
So
it was
I
still
mean,
iffy for sure.
Parker, it was still iffy. There was a few fail modes that it could have happened. And at first, we were all sitting out there and we're like, okay, well, is this gonna go down? And we had semi clearing before. I think that's what helped us in the long run, was that we actually had a little bit breakthrough of sun before the event went underway. And that's what was able to warm up the atmosphere to get that mezzo started and to really kick things off, pretty much. This was, you know, you keep replaying this video over and over, this, I can't emphasize enough, this was the tornado that kick started it all. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, doesn't look like a lot's going on, but the energy from spawning this one tornado had just, it really put the fire in the atmosphere. And then every storm that developed right after was just like everything was tornado warned after that. So
And I actually have the if you on our next slide, I actually have the your initial reaction whenever you actually intercepted that. So if you uh, are you ready to move on to that clip?
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so uh, here you can see right here is whenever you intercepted that tornado. The first moment, kind of the end of that sped up clip that we saw in the first one, and this is where you saw all of it go down. Right here, whenever it dropped right in front of you, and right on the left, you can see right there is the footage where that tornado dropped, and on the right you can see some of the other photos that kind of went along with the storm as well, all the cinematic footage that you were able to capture from this. But the main factor here was that tornado, and like you said, it was pretty much the tornado that led the event. It led everything, and it really helped bring all of this together.
Yeah, that's the picture I was talking about. That rope tornado. Um, I've never seen anything like it. Like, it was, I I still don't know what it was. Maybe it was just kind of like maybe kind of a crazy slinky hell shaft of some sort, or maybe a rain shaft of some sort. But I mean, and when right before that tornado, we saw in the distance, and then right before that tornado happened, like, it was still in the distance. And I mean, I'm just kind of, I want to know what it was, because I don't think anybody else knows what it was. But I think that was pretty. I know the video's delayed, but there's two different shots of that inversion going across the sky, whatever it was. And it's pretty solid. I mean, I'm not sure. It could be anything. Maybe this haze, but it looked pretty solid from where we were at. It could have been a rogue tornado. It could have been inflow. I mean, you really just don't know unless you were actually over there and it was causing damage. That's the only point you would know what it was actually. But overall, I mean, I think it was a really good it was a really good chase overall because a lot of things were going on all at the same time, like a lot of cool things that were going on at the same time. And I'm kind of mad about my glass, but at the same time, I'm really not because that was some really cool hail. To be honest with you, I'm not sorry about spending $800 in glass. That was really cool hail. So,
I can't. Yeah, I mean, I've always been. I know a lot of chasers complain about the hail, and clearly because it costs a lot of damage. But I've always been a person who kind of enjoys intercepting that as well. I mean, it's quite a spectacle, especially when you get that large hail that you were talking about, and you said you have a couple softball-sized dents in your vehicle there. So I can't even imagine the craziness in that moment when you were first initially intercepting that hail core. That was, I mean, core punching is quite
I
a
don't
fun
think I don't
sometimes.
think it was I don't think it was actually intercepting. It was actually being in the wrong place at the wrong time because there was a lot of us out there right at that point, and
Exactly.
we were kind of just there, and I mean, and so like we never really saw any homeowners or anybody come out. The police was there, fire was out. Everybody had turned around and went their own separate directions. I stayed behind. I helped police. We cleared the debris out of the roadway. And then fire department moved and they went up the road and checked on those houses up there. For about 10 minutes it got really crazy out there, and I really couldn't understand why. I've been really good always for 20 plus years to stay out of hail unless it was intentional. And I really couldn't understand why we were on the southwest back end of the tail of this storm and why it hailed lemons. And then I went back and started reviewing the radar from everything. And so we were, even though we were on the backside of that storm, we were actually on the north side of that new tornado warned storm that was to the west of us. So that's what dropped all the gigantic hail on us, was that storm. And I believe that's the one that had went through and damaged Mason City and everything to the northwest of where we were. So
Which makes sense. So you might have been in either the forward flank downdraft of that new storm, or maybe even because you were close to just about near that tornado, maybe you were also in the rear flank downdraft. Did you know really where you were relative to that at that moment?
yes, I mean we were on the southwest side of that hook. So I mean
So
like
that
there
makes
was
sense.
So, I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, we were in a really good position not to get hailed, to be honest with you, because we were all right on the southwest corner of that tail. So there shouldn't have been hail there. You know what I'm saying? Like I would
Exactly.
understand if we were on the southeast side, then I would understand that downplink, but we were really on the wrong side of the hill. So that's the only answer I have is we were on the north side of that new storm, and that's where it dropped that gigantic hail. So, but hey, it happens,
It does.
and you can't be mad at it because it's part of the business. I mean, so I experienced it. Like I've always been kind of chicken to do it because you talk about gigantic hail like that over an inch, and you're talking about it could kill you too. It
Exactly.
could come flying through the windshield if you're not fully protected. It could come through the windshield and it could actually hurt you if it's wind driven. And so I really never really messed with gigantic hail, but that was really cool to go through. And I just might save up and go do that again, to be honest with you.
I mean, whenever you do a Great Plains chase, you're almost guaranteed to be getting hail to up to more significant sized hail. I mean, especially when you go to those upper levels in April, it's guaranteed. I mean, an Iowa storm chase in April is almost guaranteed always to drop large hail.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why you try to position yourself on the good side of the storm so you don't encounter that. But sometimes Mother Nature just likes to be tricky and she likes to keep you on your toes. So you just kind of got to watch out for that. So
And it's very marvelous how you captured that perfect view of that tornado. Um, it was just really awesome to see all that.
it's really pretty. I like my tornado.
And your view of it is perfect too. You were right where you needed to be right at that time whenever that tornado dropped. And the fact that you were there to watch it drop made it even better. You caught it on video too, so that it was the perfect chase for sure. It was the perfect chase. A minor setback with that windshield, but again, you said you kind of enjoyed the hail and the core punching there, so that's always fun.
We're going to do it again.
And
Absolutely
I
going to
can't
do
wait
that
to see
again.
that.
Just got to wait when it's not so expensive. I you would be surprised coming out of winter into spring. Not a lot of people want to go replace their windshields, but right
Yeah.
now, between the shortage of everything that's going on and everybody waking up and oh, it's springtime, let's go replace our windshields. So there's actually a shortage of glass right now. So it was really, really difficult to find my front windshield, and I was already told that it's gonna be very difficult to order my back windshield because it's not even in stock right now. So I gotta check back every week until it is in stock. Interesting things. But again, it was worth it. And I do not recommend you trying that unsupervised. I have to add the disclaimer in there. 2-inch diameter hail will kill you. So if I have to err on the side of caution and tell everybody that is watching or listening to this interview, do not try this at home. We are trained professionals. Sometimes things happen, but we're able to compensate for it. But y'all, as amateurs, no, do not. So this is actually very dangerous stuff that can hurt you pretty bad. And a matter of fact, since we're on that topic, there was also a tornado at the same time, or what, a day before, in Texas, and there was a storm chaser, storm spotter that was chasing the tornado and actually made a mistake and got wrapped up in it and actually got flipped. So this is actually very dangerous profession to get into, and I can't stress that enough to be absolutely very careful and do not mess with this kind of stuff unless you're trained.
And you really do need to you have to memorize all of the spots. You can't just know how to analyze radar. You have to know how to analyze the storm itself because let's say if your radar goes out or even if you have radar, you need to know how to read that storm. You need to know what it's going to do next. And even though that is hard, we can't it's not a perfect science at all. It's still hard to predict what storms are going to do. They have a mind of their own for sure. And we've proven that multiple times with these other supercells that have come through. But you really do have to know what you're doing with these storms and you have to know how to analyze one. You have to look at it. You have to be able to look at it and know what its next move is going to be or what it's likely going to be. And it's a really dangerous but fun hobby. And for a lot of people, it's not just a hobby; it's the main thing of our lives. So, um, guess there's really no stopping that from kind of happening. It's already set and done. But we're always usually careful,
You
and
know,
even with me just getting involved with this, only a few years into this, I still have to be careful because I'm still new, even though I have about 2 or 3 years, kind of going after storms. I still got to be careful because I if you don't have about a 10-year seniority in this, you really have no place in going out and chasing these big tornadoes because it's really dangerous.
If your viewers can notice the topography in my pictures, Iowa is very flat and very rural west of Des Moines and especially northwest of Des Moines. And so the cell phone service out there is kind of hit and miss. So there was a couple of times out there that I was kind of flying blind to what was going on, and I had actually messaged Landon and I had asked him to be my secondary eyes and let me know when the point of initiation, when things were starting to ramp up, because I actually was sitting in Fort Dodge and didn't have the lick of service on my data, or it was being very lagged. And it's just because it's rural country, and it's farmland USA. And so, I mean, it really highlights the fact that even though you know what you're doing after you take the class, but you only have a few years in, you really have to err and exercise a lot of caution, because a lot of these rural areas, you lose a lot of your data service, which your radar depends on. So it just, even though, you can get to the point where you can actually spot the tornado and actually initiate it, or from initiation or to the midpoint where, you can actually see a big, a big mass or whatever is going on, a wedge or stovepipe, you can actually dump the radar and actually just follow the tornado, because you can actually already tell what direction it wants to go, and you can just kind of follow along with the clouds. So right up to that point where, on the video where you show it blow up, from that point on, it was just kind of like just following the grid roads, because Iowa has awesome road network.
They
Like
really do.
everything's in a grid, so everything is easy to get to. And if you question where you're going, you can always go west or east, and you'll eventually run into an asphalt road, and then you can look to find out where you're at that point. But everything in between is a lot of fields and a lot of caliche road. So if you're able to nab your eyes onto your target, you can just actually cruise behind it very comfortably and not have to worry about the logistics of having to watch your radar and what's going on, unless there's a lot of things going on, and then you would have to watch your radar, because then you have to worry about other other issues out there, like other hail pockets developing and whatnot, and you just might accidentally run into one. So you got to be really careful still, but you can actually kind of just vibe and feel out the conditions.
Exactly. It, that hail can always come up and jump on you, and
Oh yeah,
it always does. Especially, a lot of new people are gonna get involved, and they're gonna think inflow. So there's a clear spot for me to kind of merge and see that tornado. The second you draw yourself into that inflow, you're setting yourself up for failure, and you really got to watch where you are relative to that tornado, because not only do you have tornado town right there in that notch, you also have hail, monster hail coming and cranking with hurricane force winds in that rear flank downdraft. So it takes a lot of guts to kind of, especially core punch through that, and you're kind of playing a gamble. You're either going to get a tornado, or well, you're 100% going to get a tornado. The fact of the matter is if you're going to see it or it's going to seek you. And luckily, whenever you got up within that, you were in a safe place relative to that tornado, so that you were able to then therefore follow it afterwards and not have any issues with that.
I agree. Yeah. Overall, it was just really cool to be out there. I mean, I can sit here and ramble for hours about how I felt, and just like, okay, not every tornado not every tornado is the same. I mean, that's fact, but I've seen a lot of tornadoes, but you can kind of rate them on, what you've seen or whatnot. In Texas, you get some pretty cool tornadoes, but they're kind of just really wrapped up in kind of like the red clay that you have out in Northwest Texas, is just kind of, and so it really throws a lot of dynamic into the storm, kind of really colorizes it. But, you know, plains tornadoes, I mean, we're all looking at the picture right now. They're just really pretty. They're clean. You can actually you can look at it and know what it is. Texas is just kind of like a mass mess, because you got dust going around and it's just really windy and it's crazy and I mean, this is actually I think one of my best tornadoes. I actually kind of like messing with high precipitation tornadoes because it's the challenge of finding them in rain. And then when you find them, they're like just a blob, And so, I mean, it's not really adventurous to some people, but to us old geezers, like we like chasing the easy stuff. So we like just kind of sitting back and just kind of chilling and watching blob of rain just kind of spin around. But I was telling Landon before the season even started that my new goal this year was to actually catch a couple low precipitation tornadoes, and then I'd be pretty satisfied to go back to high precipitation. But it kind of looks like lately this season is going to really set up for some really, really pretty low precipitation tornadoes in the plains this year. And we have a lot of systems that have been coming through that have been kind of packed in a lot of moisture. And then the last couple of times, we're going to start because we're expecting on the extended long range modeling for the climate, it kind of shows another cool down, perhaps, maybe sometime around May. But other than that, like it's been an overall cool spring for the northern tier and a really warm and moist and robust season down in the south for the people in the southern states. And so you have a lot of that going on, and a lot of that moisture. So a couple of times, the last couple of systems have been kind of and things didn't work out, and there's a lot of fail modes with it, and there was all the tornadoes were south. But this last wave, and then the one that's coming probably this Friday might be another low precipitation chance. And I actually see up until the point where everybody starts to warm up finally, like in the northern tier, I think we're going to continue to keep seeing a lot of these low precipitation events because, you know, a lot of that cold dryness is still in the north, and you have that moisture in the south, and you have pretty much the dynamics to give that right in the midsection of the country. But that's my thought. I could be wrong, but that's pretty much how the season looks like it's shaping up. And then when we start getting warmer, we start getting into more moisture, and then we start getting really into the core of the larger tornadoes, I feel. And I think that May, June, we're going to see some events, and then we get a break for a little bit for July, maybe, perhaps, maybe a couple of breakouts here and there. Nothing significant, but I think we're going to have a very busy hurricane season. And I think a lot of people that need some rain are going to about to get it, just not need to get there. So, and that's important. Those people in the south need the rain because there's a really bad drought going on. So,
And I did see that too. There's a drought. Notably, we are going to be talking about here in our next upcoming video, sometime in the later week into the weekend or later. We're going to be covering our preliminary hurricane season forecasts, and it's going to be interesting. As Storm Chaser Lexi did just say, it's going to be that La Nina is going to cause this to crank again, and we're going to have another busy hurricane season. Um, so it's going to be another year. Hopefully, after this year, we switch, and if we were to even, which is rare, especially to come right directly after La Nina, but if we were to get an El Reno style, an El Nino, an El Nino style year, then we would finally get a more calm Atlantic hurricane season, and we wouldn't really have to worry as much for the Atlantic. But um, that's pretty much all I have to mention.
I, I really think that we stay where we're at. And I really, and I've seen some chatter on the back line that the seasons that stayed La Nina like we are now, or neutral, it was really, really busy those years in the plains. And I have to circle around and really highlight a year that it really played in the severe weather factor, and that was 2011. And we had actually saw some pretty significant tornadoes that year, not just in Moore or in Oklahoma and in Missouri, but we also saw that all over the place too in Illinois and in Iowa. We saw a couple of significant tornadoes in Ohio also. And looking ahead and seeing the long range for May, June, July, it has the highest probability of precipitation right over the Mississippi Valley. So I think all the signs are pointing to a very, very busy tornado season still. I don't even know if we're in the prime yet. I think we're just beginning, and we're going to have a very busy tornado season, and then we're going to jump right into very early, maybe very early, kind of early, um, probably July, August, start seeing some tropical development and some systems move through, and that might cause some pretty significant stuff to go on as well. So, like right now, we're just kind of forecasting by the crystal ball, but I mean, me personally, and my experience, I think we're heading right for a pretty significant year. So
Thanks again for that insight. I do agree the same, and it looks like this year is going to be really busy coming up.
absolutely. So, and it's always a pleasure talking with you, Landon. I'm just super excited to get out there. This was a really good catch, and I'm going to take a break and replace my glass in my car. So we're probably going to come back. We're going to reconvene the second week of June, and then we're going to really hit it hard from the yard from there out. So we're going to be really on the road, and we're going to be really focusing on getting these wascally whirlwinds.
But thanks again. Yeah, I do think it's necessary that after a big chase like this, a break needs to be taken, and then um, I guess you'll get right back in it. But thank you again so much for joining us and sharing your footage and allowing me to show everyone this footage of what happened on the inner core of what that storm looked like on Tuesday. And it was a really big event, and I'm really glad you were able to be on it. And stay safe while you were chasing. And thanks again for allowing me to use the footage.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Thanks for talking with me, and I enjoy your fans. And you know, this is only the beginning. Like I said, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna get some. So hopefully y'all enjoy all the footage we bring to you. So We appreciate everybody.
Anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. I appreciate talking with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming in and tuning in and taking the time out to talk with us. Um, that's going to be it, folks, for this live stream. And let's hope that we'll see Storm Chaser Lexi out there again soon to catch another nice tornado like this one.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You as well. Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. That was really fun to get with Storm Chaser Lexi again and talk about all that fantastic tornado footage that she was able to capture. And it was a really perfect storm. That's exactly what it was. It was a perfect storm, and I really do appreciate her taking the time out of her day to come talk. And if you like that, make sure to like the video so that I can understand if we are on a go to make another one of these, because I really do enjoy talking with Storm Chaser Lexi and kind of doing the recaps and also the pre-forecast as well, the live forecast that we did the last time. And I really did enjoy this. So